Okay, Kamalji, we'll be tracking the big takeaways from that huddle. For the moment, thank you very much for joining us. I just want to give all of our viewers a sense of all that's transpired in the last few hours that led to those scenes that you see of the protesters at the Red Fort. In fact, swarming the historic monument, they unfurled their own flag as well. They unfurled their own Nishan Sahib flag in an apparent siege of the monument. And this is the place where the Prime Minister addresses the nation every single year on Independence Day. A few youth were seen climbing atop a flagpole on the 17th century landmark to put up their own flag. Policemen were seen thereafter trying to pacify, disperse the agitators and also remove the Kesari flags, but they didn't succeed in doing that. Some of these protesters who gathered there even brandished swords, and this on the ramparts of the iconic monument. As of now, some of the farmers have started to retreat. They've started to go back from the Red Fort, saying that they've sent across the message that they wanted to. Earlier, a large number of farmers riding tractors and motorcycles thronged to the Red Fort, greatly outnumbering the corps, resulting in those visuals that you see there on your screens.
एक और चीज देखिए, पुलिस सुरक्षा बल वहां पर ऊपर चढ़ रहे हैं। देखिए मैं दिखाना चाहूंगी, यहाँ पर ये बहुत अहम है। अगर किसानों ने चढ़ के तिरंगा अपना निशान साहब और किसानों का झंडा लगाया, तो यहाँ पर पुलिस बल ऊपर चढ़ रहे हैं उस झंडे को उतारने के लिए, और नीचे से जोर से हूटिंग हो रही है कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, आप नहीं उतार सकते। वो सुरक्षा बल जैसे तैसे ऊपर चढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहा है, लेकिन देखिए तालियों के साथ अब यहाँ पर एक कंपटीशन वाली भावना आ गई है। हमने लगाया, आप उतार कर दिखा दीजिए, है हिम्मत तो उतारिए। कुछ इस तरह की फीलिंग यहाँ पर है। देखिए हूटिंग लगातार यहाँ पर हो रही है, उतारने की कोशिश वापस से उसको। पुलिस बल वहां पर मौजूद और बड़ी संख्या में लोग मौजूद, उनको शायद यही समझाने की कोशिश की गई कि देखिए आपने लगा लिया, वापस से उसको उतारा जाए, क्योंकि यहाँ पर हमारे देश की शान तिरंगा ही लहराएगा। और यही आपने वायदा किया था। आपने कहा था कि अगर हम रैली निकालेंगे तो वो तिरंगे के तले ही रैली होगी, उसके आगे आगे तिरंगा ही होगा, और देश की शान के लिए, गणतंत्र के लिए ये रैली निकाली जाएगी।
Taking this across now to Gaurav Sawant, who's joining us live from ITO. Gaurav, we are getting in reports now of most of the protesters, the tractors, moving away from the national capital. But there are also some pockets where these protesters remain, like in ITO.
Well, ITO at this point of time, if you see behind me, there are hundreds and hundreds of tractors still here at this point of time. While some of these tractors are moving out, many still remain at this point of time. And perhaps that is where there is a disconnect between what some farmers want to do and what some of the leadership perhaps may expect them to do. Because as more tractors come in, none have left just as yet. If you see around me, there are tractors that are parked all along this road that leads from ITO. This is the one that goes across the Yamuna, but let's try and get it deeper inside. More of these farmers are coming in and getting deployed. If I show you these images, some tractors are parked here. Tractors are now being parked in this area. The effort is to block traffic or perhaps just ensure that they stay here. Delhi police sources are telling India Today that they are speaking to volunteers who were tying up with the Delhi police and then talking to the farmers, asking them to move back to their respective areas. But hundreds of additional tractors seem to be rolling in virtually every moment from three sides at this point of time. So this entire traffic has been blocked, Akshita, as of now, for any other movement except the protesting farmers and of course some of the other protesters who've come in, Akshita.
Gaurav, any update on the Red Fort? Have the police officials been able to secure the monument completely? Gaurav, can you hear me?
Yes, Akshita, now I can hear you. I'm sorry, I'd lost that connection.
Gaurav,
Internet is a little dicey here at this point of time. Please go on, Akshita.
Asking you, Gaurav, about what the situation is in the Red Fort. Any idea about whether the monument has been completely sanitized, secured by the police?
Well, one police officer I spoke to just a short while back seemed to indicate that the effort is still on, but no success completely. But as you can look around me here, there are some people who come in from the Red Fort who also come and park themselves here. As you see, these tractors are parked here. They are not moving away anywhere at this point of time. They are replenishing their stocks. Some of them say that they will stay here longer. Remember, the agreement was that after 5 p.m. the farmers will all go back to their respective areas, but it appears unlikely, at least as of now, that that promise of vacating the national capital by sundown will be fulfilled. Given the volumes that are still coming in, there are literally hundreds of tractors coming in from 3 sides here at this point of time, Akshata.
Gaurav, where you are at ITO is where the reports came in of one farmer having died, and that led to a lot of tension also at the ITO. That perhaps is what has triggered so many protesters gathering where you are.
Akshita, may I request you to repeat your question, please?
Sure, understandable, Gaurav. There's a lot of noise there, signal also very, very dicey. But I was asking you about the reports of a death of a protester, and that happened in the ITO, because that reportedly is what has triggered all of these protesters gathering there in such large numbers.
Well, once again, I will rely on the information that's coming from the Delhi police. Yes, there was an accident that took place in which a tractor, it came so fast that it crossed the barricade and there was an injury, but we are waiting for an official confirmation. But just a short while back, Singhu, one of the leaders, Yogendra Yadav, issued a public appeal telling farmers not to believe any rumor. There was no firing, there was no lathi charge, as he put it, and he insisted that this should remain peaceful, because the strength of this entire effort will be if this protest remains completely peaceful. And now if you see, there are more tractors that are coming in from 3 different locations even as we speak, and we are right here in the heart of ITO, where all traffic from all sides has been completely blocked. We also had to walk to get here, Akshita, to be able to get our viewers this latest that's happening here. The volunteers are constantly telling the tractor drivers to move towards the border once again and vacate this area as was promised. It remains to be seen whether that promise will be fulfilled, Akshita.
In your communication, Gaurav, with the Delhi police, as you pointed out, the agreement earlier for this tractor rally is that it would end at 5 p.m. and come what may, they'd all retreat. They're now sitting there making it clear they're there for the long haul. What is the communication from the Delhi police? Are they post 5 p.m. going to use force to push back these farmers and clear that road?
Well, the Delhi police has been remarkably restrained in dealing with the farmers, and in one instance, it was very surprising to see as the protesters moved forward. It was the Delhi police that actually sat down on the ground and tried to ensure that the farmers do not move forward. So that's the policy that's being adopted by Delhi police as of now. But there is a very important meeting that's underway in the Ministry of Home Affairs for future course of action. Because remember, today is Republic Day, but each day after today remains equally sensitive. You have the National Cadet Corps parade tomorrow, then you have the beating retreat, and then you have the budget session of Parliament, which again the protesters have said that they will target and attempt to reach the Parliament. So, it remains very sensitive now. Some of these roads are being blocked, some of these metro stations are also being blocked by the security forces at this point of time to prevent any untoward incident, and vehicles are actually being told to turn around. A short while back on the DND, the police had to put concrete holders to ensure that the tractors do not move forward or farmers do not violate that barricade. So the DND blockade wasn't violated, but here it still remains to be seen whether these protesters will go back to the borders as promised, or whether they remain here, Akshata.
The problem also, Gaurav, is about how much people have been inconvenienced because of this agitation, the tension and the violence. All those roads in the heart of Delhi, Gaurav, have been completely closed off now.
Oh, absolutely. While we were at the Delhi-Noida direct There were vehicles that wanted to go to the airport, people who had, who had to go far. We were told, at least that is what one of those people said, that they were trying to get, but they were unable to get forward with boxes of, with bags of luggage. That's point one. Point two, if you look around me, all traffic blocked. Like this gentleman may have succeeded in bringing his car here, but he's unable to take his car forward with tractors blocking this entire way. We'll try and attempt to walk a little ahead and show you if we are able to. While this is one part, that entire road that goes from Connaught to Group, that's the old police headquarters. This entire road here has been blocked, and there is no vehicular movement here either. So as you look all across, these tractors have been placed here to ensure that no vehicle can come from that side and go here, or vice versa. While the police are stopping people even from coming here, but individuals like this gentleman who may have succeeded in coming here, he has nowhere to go except turn back and go towards the border.
You can only imagine the amount of inconvenience it's caused for Delhiites, for anyone living even close to Delhi. They're not able to travel back or forth. Many of them stuck on the road for hours together because they're completely sealed off the entire roads. And Gaurav, you know, because you've traveled up till ITO, you're telling us that you had to get there by foot also to a great distance because they've shut down all the roads. There's a great deployment of security also there to ensure, again, there's no incidents of violence that are reported in ITO or other adjoining areas.
Well, you can just look around me. There is so much of police. The police which is now on two-wheelers, because that's the only way you can get there. There are multiple layers of barricading that has been done. And in one instance in Trans Yamuna, we saw images of those barricades being picked up and thrown into a drain. Again, these tractors are very strong. Some of these tractors have this huge thing in front which was able to ram through any barricade, which while now farmers or should the protesters claim that it wasn't planned, those elements weren't a part of the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, but that was the commitment that the farmers and the protesters had made that to the police, that law and order will not be violated. But that clearly was a promise that has been unkept. You know, it's a democracy, not a mobocracy. We did see instances of mob violence on the streets of the national capital, which has actually marred the Grand Republic Day parade that we saw on Rajpath. When farmers spoke of the pride they had in the tricolour, the question remains, Akshita, whether the pride was only in the tricolour in their hand and perhaps not in the heart.
You know, one of the questions that everyone's asking right now, perhaps everyone wants answers to, is who are these people? Who are these people who so easily resorted to violence, who so easily resorted to vandalism? There are such shocking videos of them driving their tractors, almost trying to run over the cops. And while the farmer leaders, Gaurav, maintain that these are not farmers, that these are some political elements that have entered the protest, the onus is also on these farmer unions to answer how it got down to this. And there's no doubt that while you've seen 60 days of peaceful protest, the fact that it's culminated in this kind of violence will lead to questions on the legitimacy of the protest, of the agitation.
You know, you're absolutely right, and these are questions that leaders of the protest need to respond to. There was a commitment, there were a series of meetings that were held with the Delhi police, there was a promise that was made, that promise unfortunately remained unkept, and that's a question that actually needs to be answered, because farmers have a reason, as they say, to protest, but does that protest also include violence, vandalism? The kind of stuff we saw, not just in targeting public property, but also what we saw happening at the Red Fort. Another issue that perhaps needs to be answered are those who are giving an intellectual cover fire, to these kinds of activities. Is that actually acceptable? It's time for society to sit down and ponder. We're a democracy, or are we a mobocracy? That's a question that actually needs to be answered in the light of what the national capital has witnessed today, and what could well happen in the days and weeks to come.
Absolutely. A lot of questions also, Gaurav, about the protests that these farmers are now planning on the day that the budget will be tabled in Parliament. Keeping in mind all that's happened, there will be questions that will be can actually handle another agitation and ensure that it's peaceful, because they gave an assurance before this.
They indeed did. And, that is where, every day we've been speaking to leaders who are a part of the farm protest, and we've been asking them, how will they ensure that no unruly elements come in, to be a part of the protest? And they assured the security forces that would not happen. But perhaps that's a question that would need to be answered when the meets once again and discusses the road ahead. That is a question that they would also be seeking answers to, because all of them have been protesting. Every tractor that you see, it says no food, no farmer. You need farmers for food. They say they have a legitimate grouse, but the means to the end, is that justifiable? When you put this question, most of the farmers we spoke to, they were very clear about it. They were not in favor of violence, and yet the violence happened.
Gaurav, the other aspect of this was that there will be questions asked of the Delhi police as well. Were they simply unprepared? Did they not expect these kind of crowds to gather? Was there not enough deployment on the ground?
Again, from what I have been told, and I have covered protests in the past in the national capital, and a lot of them. So the Delhi police actually ensures what Dipendra Pathak yesterday was describing as a fail-proof security system. One tier for the Republic Day parade, the second tier for the parade, the third tier for the parade, and then a separate 4 layers as far as the protests were concerned. So, there were contingencies in place. And there was backup. There were the Central Armed Police Forces, the Rapid Action Forces, Central Reserve Police Force, the additional battalions of the Delhi Police. So, number of policemen were not an issue. But instructions not to use violent means to quell the protest is something that my sources here at IPO are telling me that they were under very clear instructions. They were to wait, watch, record, and then subsequently respond. Now, again, it's for the highest political leadership of the country to take a call on the next course of action, etc.
As far as the next round of talks, really, between the farmers and the government, Gaurav, is concerned, in the back of what we've witnessed in the last few hours in the national capital, the goodwill or perhaps even the advantage that the farmers had over the government when it came to these talks, because of the kind of public goodwill that they enjoyed, that has been affected now. That has been harmed with all of these protests, these violence, and the fact that the farmers are shunning blame and shunning responsibility.
Well, if you hear the Delhi police press conference just 2 days ago, and, this is not conversation that was happening off camera or source-based information. This was Dipendra Pathak, one of the senior-most police officers of Delhi police, who went on record to say that there are intelligence inputs that indicate that there could be violence. There were intelligence inputs that were indicating that there were unruly elements who were trying to take advantage of the situation. There were intelligence inputs where he went on record to say that there were 308 handles that had, on social media that had just been created just ahead of this, and their aim was to spread disharmony in our country ahead of farmer protests. All of that was known. All of that was in public domain and shared by the Delhi police on record and shared with the protesting farmers and the farmer unions. So the protesters knew there were unruly elements. The Delhi police always told us that the responsibility was of the farmers unions to ensure that there was no violence. The farmers unions had hundreds of volunteers to ensure unruly elements did not come in. But that was violated early in the morning. Even as the parade was on, there was an attempt to ram through the barricades, and that only intensified in the hours ahead. And the violence that we saw, some of it was on expected lines. Perhaps then it has a cycle of its own and is not controlled even by those who may have wanted it to be orchestrated, Akshita.
How did it get to this, Gaurav? That is a question a lot of people watching the broadcast would be asking now. How did it go from a peaceful tractor rally on the outskirts of Delhi into an all-out, full-blown vandalism spree with a lot of violence, with clashes and whatnot in the heart of the national capital, where you are in ITU? How do the protesters manage to get there?
There is an old saying that says, a spark neglected burns the house, and that is exactly what happened. So 3 borders, farmers were permitted, that they would be permitted entry. I'll just show you that even if people want to step out, there are additional tractors that are still coming into this area. But fortunately, an effort is being made to get these tractors that come in, through this area to go ahead and then go out towards Ghaziabad on that side. additional tractors also coming in at this point of time. So by and large, an effort is being made. The Delhi police operating through these volunteers to ensure that they direct the farmers to go out. As far as violating those barricades are concerned, Akshita, remember the three routes, 63 kilometers, 60 kilometers and 43 kilometers. There was a laid out road for the farmers. There were layers of barricades. But once that first layer broke, the second layer wasn't as strong. And farmers, when you look at this tractor, every tractor has a hardened bumper, an iron grill in the front. That is usually when, these tractors are loaded. Look at that grill, how strong that grill is. It ran through any barricade. And there were instances, we saw those visuals of them being rammed. Now, why do you have these barricades? Why do you have these grills in front of a tractor? Because a tractor carries heavy loads. So the front two wheels of the tractor often go up like that, with the load, too much of load in the rear. That is why this weighs it down, and the farmers use advantage of that grill to ram through the barricades and the police cordon, and that is how the violence took place.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.